Science is just testing and experimentation. And that's fun. Like, we're doing science sometimes all the time. We're thinking, oh, why isn't this plant growing? Or why isn't this stain coming out of my clothes? Let me figure it out. We figure things out. That's fun and exciting and interesting. What sterilizes science is when you bring in advisory boards and funding channels and charts and spreadsheets sometimes. And I get it. Science has been sterilized and zapped the fun out of it. But if you really bring it just to like getting curious with life, getting curious with the objects in your home and the people in your existence, like just thinking, oh, like, I wonder if I compliment my spouse every day. I wonder if that will change our marriage or something. That's science. That's a scientific research experiment you're conducting. So, I think of it like that.
Hi everyone, welcome to Psychedelic Conversations. Today I have with me Mia Cosco, a researcher. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, and it's lovely to meet you.
I know, lovely to meet you in person finally.
Yeah.
Feels really different because we connected online.
Yes.
And so how did you find what do you think of our community? Because obviously we all connected online. Does it kind of translate through? Like, do you feel that energy? Because it's interesting, I'm saying this as the start of our conversation because it seems like it's all about the energy. And in the medicine spaces or psychedelic, even research science, there is always this energetic connection first. Do you feel that with our community?
I do, yeah. And it's a challenge sometimes to translate that across digitally. But if you can do it, you've quite mastered something. You really thought about it. There's a lot of intentionality behind like what you're doing in the community. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Thank you so much. So I always get thrilled, like stoked all the time when I meet people in person. I thrive for that because there is a more depth to the connection than just the digital, like, Instagram or LinkedIn. Yeah. So before we begin, Mia, so your research area is quantified citizen study, the code red, which is about psychedelics. If psychedelics will or can alleviate women's pain management symptoms related to their menstrual cycle.
Yes, yeah.
This is such a big conversation. Thank you for taking it on.
Thank you, and you're welcome.
So before we start, I would like to first of all get to know you a little bit, and maybe if it's okay for you to share what brings you to this work.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's obviously personal as well as professional. And so for me, like, honestly, I've been a researcher mostly in children's development studies. So when I was going to the University of British Columbia in Canada, where I was born and raised, I was mostly working with children. And so after researching with children, I would also work with children on the spectrum. So I would teach them a lot of social skills and kind of just foster their empathy training in many ways. Which, you can teach treatments and behaviors around that. But with this particular research study, this is about alleviating the pain in menstrual symptoms. And for me, that's very important because I just feel like, number one, whenever I go to psychedelic conferences, and I've been going to psychedelic conferences for 10 years now, there's very little just dedicated to women's health research. And in general, I feel like women all over the world need to be educated more about what's going on in their own body, what's going on underneath the hood. Because, sometimes, women will be sitting on something for years, and then they'll get a nasty health scare like later on in life. And that is...
You can say that again.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking because many of these things are preventable over time. And I just feel like there's so much I'm frustrated with personally about religious indoctrination, honestly, and how education about women's health is censored, often like biblically motivated, really, like seeing women, there's a great quote by Brian Muraresku, who wrote The Immortality Key. And he said, if there's one thing that Christians are afraid of more than drugs, it's women. And
you can say that again too.
and like,
Mia, who sent you here? You're the messenger in science, you know.
And for me, it's just like, you know, for me, I've experienced birth control, different types of birth control. I've experienced easy periods. I've experienced intensely painful periods in my life. I am 29. So for me, I haven't experienced, and in my life, I haven't experienced childbirth. I haven't experienced menopause. I haven't experienced the full range of like womanhood and what it can be. But as women, we're really like piecing it together. We're really all citizen scientists, and we thrive in like just gatherings where we can share and dispense knowledge and information. And so for me, personally, I came to this work because number one, I have really painful periods every month, really painful. And I was like, I cannot rely on Advil every month. I hate the idea of relying on a medication, especially a medication that I know built up in the body is not healthy for me long-term sustainably. I don't want to rely on that anymore. And then number two, professionally, you know, I sat in ayahuasca circles, ceremonies, like 20 in the beginning of COVID. Because what else are you going to do in COVID? Like, it wasn't like I was going to work or anything. I was like, okay, I'm going to have a ton of ayahuasca ceremony experience. And I did, and I met the women of the Yuwanawa. So they're based in the Amazon rainforest. And ayahuasca is the centerpiece of their culture. Plant medicine is in general. So they don't go outside and go to CVS. They don't like learn about the Western scientific model of psychology or anything like that. They have plant medicine and sacred knowledge passed down generation by generation, and they have that information at their disposal, and they are thriving with that. They are fine with that. They have figured out things. They have plants though that we may never even know about in our lifetimes, and I just think we have to bridge those worlds. So professionally, I want to bridge the worlds. I'm very passionate about that. And then personally, you know, like every month, I know that I got to manage my suffering. So.
That's a good place to be coming from, to really have such passion.
Yes.
This is what I noticed, Mia, you know, it's like everyone here in the Psychedelic Conference, they look different, individual, unique, style differently, but one shared like common ground is that somehow people who take up interest in psychedelics usually come from their own experience. Mm-hmm. Or a loved one, or a struggling loved one, or someone. Even the most hardcore scientists will have this softening story about a loved one or their personal experience, which is, for me, this is where we connect. And I guess if you look at this whole field, some people say it's gold rush now, it's trending, it's like the Renaissance and all that. But as long as we come from a personal place, a personal story, we don't really focus too much on yes, there are, you know, a whole conversation around this political biotech companies trying to make money and create novel drugs and so on. But they don't last long, because if they come from that place, they kind of fall away. And those of us, the people like you, come from their own pain point and their own story, seem to stand and stay for the long haul. Mm-hmm. Do you agree?
Yes, for sure. It is like people don't enter this renaissance, this movement, this industry. They don't enter it for lucrative or external validation purposes. It's not like becoming a realtor, you know, which is socially validated and approved. It's not like becoming, you know, an engineer. This is doing something from the heart and the soul and the body often. And it's usually from a place where you've tried everything. And you're like, I don't want to become a criminal, but if psychedelics are illegal, I may have to, because I'm looking for health and healing and wisdom. And I'm looking to heal my intergenerational trauma and my complicated grief. And yeah.
So many places. Yeah. Yeah. And even if they do come from a very shallow interest, they fall away. They don't last.
Yes. Mm-hmm. We've seen that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then there you are, you know, coming from science, you know, it's actually harder because there's a lot of pushback on psychedelics and
You're
science.
You're straddling both worlds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you have to say for that?
I mean, I would say that for me, like, I know that the different personality types in this world crave sources differently. So people who operate in their head a lot of the time, like I live in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I'm sandwiched right between Harvard and MIT. The people who thrive in those institutions are incredibly in their heads. They're incredible overthinkers. And they're often people who are very cerebral. And I am somebody who's very in my heart. I'm very romantic. I'm very bohemian in that way. And so I come across as kind of like, you know, a hippie to them, even though I don't think of myself as a hippie, but to them, I am. And I don't mind that because I know that there is data behind what I say. I know that my intuition can be backed up a lot of times by data. And sometimes it's very niche data, but there are institutions that are being funded, like oftentimes in the west coast of the States, like in California and LA. There's institutions there doing, you know, remarkable research, but also in New York and all these places. And sometimes they need to hear like, oh, NYU did this or Johns Hopkins did that. And I know to say that because I know that's what will matter to their brain. And then I know also people who are indigenous healers and they're community leaders and guides. And they do not care what Harvard or MIT studies. They do not care. They care what life have you lived, what have you persevered through, what challenges have you fought through, and how have you made a difference in your community that otherwise would not have happened. And then I also know how to speak to that too. I say, yeah, let me tell you something that I don't tell many people. And then I tell them and they're like, wow, you have a message, you need to put it out there. And so I know how to appeal to these different head-based, body-based, or heart-based communities and entire cultures and societies that value completely different things. Like the Iwanawa culture, they value joy and they value human connection first. Like they care about, you know, gross domestic happiness. They do not care about gross domestic product. So
never heard of that term before.
Yeah. Bhutan actually excels in gross domestic happiness because they measure it and study it. So that's something I like to bring up.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
So what would you like to share with our listeners? Because I don't want our listeners to turn off when they hear the scientific research, because a lot of people, they just cannot connect psychedelics and science. So what would you say that, for example, that would hopefully change the way they associate with it today?
Yeah. I mean, what I would say is that...
A lot to put on you, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay, yeah.
I feel like you got this.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, science is just testing and experimentation. And that's fun. Like we're doing science sometimes all the time. You know, we're thinking, oh, why isn't this plant growing? Or why isn't this stain coming out of my clothes? Let me figure it out. You know, we figure things out. That's fun and exciting and interesting. What sterilizes science is when you bring in advisory boards and funding channels and charts and spreadsheets sometimes. And I get it. I mean, you know, when religion was fun, it was a place of dance and temples and feminine healing. That was fun. It wasn't, you know, eating a wafer and getting judged every time you have a sexual thought. It was not fun. That is the sterilization of spirituality. Same with science. Science has been sterilized and zapped the fun out of it. But if you really bring it just to like getting curious with life, getting curious with the objects in your home and the people in your existence, like just thinking, oh, like, I wonder if I compliment my spouse every day. I wonder if that will change our marriage or something. That's science. That's a scientific research experiment you're conducting. So, you know, I think of it like that.
I love that. I want to call it bringing science home.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right on the money.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And so for the remaining time that we have, what would you like to share with our listeners? What did you find?
Mm-hmm.
What is exciting you and inspiring you? Mm-hmm. And what are the results?
Yeah, so our results that we found were basically that, like, when it comes to pain management, you know, women are often still relying on painkillers. And if they're relying on plant medicine, it's usually for mild pains. I think people generally think that plant medicine can't really, they don't see it being used for pain, they see it being used for psychological balance. But plant medicine can indeed be used for pain management. You can really knock some pain out of the way with plant medicine. And you don't have to be some sort of ceremonial leader or guide to access plant medicine and to know more about plant medicine. What we did find is that people in our study oftentimes are relying on caffeine and nicotine for energy. They want energy. But also they want it just for like feeling, not feeling like they're ruminating or, overthinking. They want to just kind of get through their day and be productive. I respect that. But if there is depression, if there's gloominess, women are going to, they're aware of psychedelics, they go to psilocybin, they go to chocolate mushrooms, they go to LSD microdosing as well. So what I'm curious is, number one, we definitely need to have more research, funding and everything, an ecosystem for women's health. We want to make sure that women know about their cycles, their phases, and what happens. We also want to make sure that funding is allocated for psychedelic to see if there's plant medicine knowledge that can be passed down from, say, Yuanawa culture or Shipibo culture or indigenous cultures in general. Like, what plant medicine wisdom do they have that we can, also go to? Because there are women who don't want to have the buildup of painkillers in their body. They don't want to rely on painkillers. I certainly don't. And so I want to see the bridging of those knowledge worlds. So that's what comes next. Yeah.
Amazing. Because I used to, my early times with the medicine training, very young woman from the Amazon. We used to have like a very sisterly kind of conversations with her, and she used to, and I used to always challenge her because she used to guide people from the Western world and challenge her about saying, what do you see that you don't have it in your cultures? Like, what are you picking up that maybe you don't understand? And she always would say, Western people rely on a lot of drugs, she would say. And then she would say, we have a plant for every single thing in our culture.
Yes.
Yeah, that was very powerful. So I hear you when you say that if we can maybe learn, and I guess the science then can be a catalyst.
Yes.
To help us get to the other side of it.
Yeah, and having like a scientific mindset about figuring things out, like, understanding that, if you're like, oh, I was doing these 5 things in my period month, and I had a very easy time, and think, okay, well, of those 5 things, like, let's just try and elucidate it to one thing that might have really pushed it over the edge. If it was the combination of all those things, then that's what you need to do next time. But if it was one thing that really pushed it over the edge, you learn more about your body, you learn more about your interaction with that thing that helped you. Like, why wouldn't you want to know everything you could about your own body and what helps you feel better? I would want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah.
Amazing. So did you guys come up with any, I don't know the scientific terms for this, but like challenges, obstacles, things that, what was the most shocking, or maybe that's too harsh, maybe like surprising, interesting for you?
Well, something notable, something significant was that a lot of the women that took part in the study and gave us their data, a lot of them came from pretty good neighborhoods, safe, secure neighborhoods in the Western world, and were educated. So I would really like to work with populations of women that are not formally educated. Because sometimes what happens is women are not formally educated in 2025, still due to where they may live in the world, and often their religious affiliation or the home they were raised in. And it just breaks my heart to think of all the women that I tried to interview or tried to recruit to the study, and they just said it was against their spirituality. And I just thought that was really interesting, because I was like, just knowing more about your body, I feel like wouldn't everyone want you to know more about your body? Then anything you touch or anyone you interact with is you're a more formed, self-aware person. I just think that is, so. And
what a best pathway to get there through your menstrual cycle, being a biological woman in the world.
Yeah.
Just makes sense.
Yeah, I could have conversations with some of the older members of my family, women, and some of them had no idea what a follicular phase was or a luteal phase. And I'm like, you go through it every month and they don't know. And I'm like, well, it's good to know, because when you know like the length of the follicular phase or the luteal phase or anything, then you can know like what maybe foods you should be eating. And then you can start to actually experiment and be like, you could set up your whole life where you can really prepare yourself well for situations as best as you can, so that if you're giving a talk at a conference, or if you're breastfeeding, or if you're, going to a birthday party or something and you're feeling socially anxious, like, you know what to eat, you know what to wear, you know what products to use, so that you're not hijacking your hormones, you're working with them in the cycle that you're in. So
it feels like trusting yourself, learning to trust your body and your needs in a moment. Very much the feminine.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Don't get too fixated on the list of things, or this is not a checklist thing going on here. This is more about underneath it. There is a learning to know yourself. I really love that.
Yeah, exactly. It's a combination of things. Like, women are really good at like seeing how different seemingly unrelated things actually can work together, and be like, wow, I'm glad I made that connection, because actually, like, the weather outside today and the food I ate last night, it's completely culminating in my present day mood shift. Yeah. And so it's important to know, like, the world works together in mysterious ways.
Yeah. We're not just separate in different biological being.
Yeah. Exactly.
Sterile.
Yeah. Exactly.
All of this resonates really well. Thank you so much. So where can our listeners find your research and read? Because I'm sure most of them now kind of like piqued interest, like those words you just said, I want to go and check it out now.
Yeah. Well, you can look up, Quantified Citizen and the Code Red study for sure. If you want to find out more about like my take on the research and like what is coming next, like what I feel like further areas of research should be on. I'm very active on social media. So on Instagram, it's just my name, Mia Cosco, and you can find me, and I'll deliver some hot takes on this all. Yeah.
Amazing. Do you work with people closely, one-on-one?
I do, yes.
Advise, consult?
Yes, yeah, I do. So people have questions about that, they can come to me and
reach out. Amazing. Well, this is great. Exciting. Yeah, and thank you for doing all this wonderful work.
Thank you.
I see you, appreciate you.
Thank you.
So we'll have everything in the show notes, everyone, so you guys can check the research, read the research, and also get in touch with Mia to learn more. Thank you so much for joining us. And yes, always ask questions, comment, get in touch with Mia.
Thank you, and you're welcome.
And we'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.